Nice to meet you. I really appreciate everybody coming and listening. I get so excited to talk about this brand, and I've worked on so many iconic brands over my career, particularly heritage brands. So some of you work for brands that are just launching, but I think anybody, whatever phase you are in your brand development, can learn from a brand that has 50 years, take lessons into your everyday of what you're doing. So I'm getting everybody after lunch, so I know that there's always a lull. So I'm not going to make you stand up and do the bunny hop, but maybe that'll loosen everybody up. So I've been with Playboy Club for the last 2 years of my life. I actually started my career at Christie's auction house, which a lot of people are always very surprised to hear, because they're sort of like, how the hell did you get to Playboy from Christie's? But that's a long story for drinks, which I'd love to have you all for drinks at the club after this, and there'll be an email going out. But basically, as I said, I've loved building luxury brands, and I always feel that also wherever your brand is, whether it's at its starting point or if it's 50 or 100 years in, you can always be aspirational and luxury and go down, but it's very hard to be a brand that is just, coasting by in that middle range and raise it up. So even if I haven't worked on the most luxurious brand, I've always been assigned to work for more mass brands that want or are aspirational, because again, like I said, it's harder to go from mid to tier. So anyway, I'm excited to talk about my recent love, Playboy Club. I don't know if everybody's familiar with the club, but we just opened in September. Sorry, I'm just trying to, I don't know. You're tech? I'm trying to make it go forward. Oh, maybe I'm holding it upside down? It's not going forward. Right? Arrow to the right?
Is that not working?
Yeah. Oh, okay. My thumb from all the texting is losing its thing. All right. So the club opened in September, and it was, I would say, probably 30 years since the last club was in New York. There used to be a club on 59th and between Park and Lexington Avenue, and around, I would say, 1986, the height of the Playboy brand, there were about 36 clubs worldwide. In about 2011, finally, one of the clubs came back. It was opened up by Caesars Entertainment Group. They're based in London, in Mayfair. And this is the second club that has made its comeback since the days of the 36 clubs worldwide. So one of the really important things, too, about working on a brand is working on a brand at the right moment. So there's many times that I could have probably joined Playboy. I could have joined it 10 years ago, or believe it or not, I don't know my age, but I could have done it 15 or 20 years ago. I'm that old, but this is a really pivotal moment in the Playboy brand's history. Hef has just passed away in December. The brand itself, Playboy, I call it Playboy Corporate, is going through a reinvigoration itself. So this is an exciting moment because there's a lot of eyes on the brand, and everybody's wondering, what is the next reiteration of the brand? And so for me, as a brand marketer, it was really exciting to take all my learnings from, believe it or not, places like Christie's, Rolls-Royce. I've worked on BlackBerry, I've worked on W Hotels, I've worked on some really iconic brands, and to take those learnings and to parlay it into the Playboy Club brand. So one of the things you see, the spirit of the iconic mansion in New York City, one of the things that we really wanted to build off of was the fact that after Hef had passed away, I don't know if you are familiar with the history, but he had been living in the mansion, and it was stipulated that he gets to stay in the mansion until he passes on. The mansion is no longer, but what is about the mansion, it's not necessarily was known for its architecture, maybe it was known for its pool or grotto, as you know, but it was really the spirit of the mansion and all the incredible iconic parties and just the aura of being around Hef and being in the mansion and being around and just never knowing like who you're going to run into. So we wanted to take that spirit and bring it into New York, but of course do it in a way that was really a reinvention of a brand so that people would feel that it's it has that relevancy, and I'll explain to you how we've made it more relevant to today's customers. In terms of the brand, something that's also very important is to reiterate that we are the luxurious, sophisticated iteration of Playboy. So we are, when you go back to what is the Playboy Club, it was that luxurious lifestyle, the lifestyle of the boating and the jetting and the, and the just bon vivant and having a great time, but also always grounded in the Playboy brand, which is about thoughtful, provoking, and incredible content. One of the things too that we work really hard to push is the fact that we're also a drinks and dinner place. A lot of people have different brand perceptions of what Playboy is, and it's very important in the reinvigoration that I'm always pushing not only the iconic brand, but the fact that we are a sophisticated drinks and dinner experience, which is what the club was 50 years ago. But I think today a lot of people hear the word club, and the associations with the word club can go in many other directions if you sort of follow my track. So one of the things, so how do you make your brand relevant? It's Playboy. I was that lucky person to launch during the Me Too, era, and a lot of people say to me, what were you thinking and how could you do this? Well, it's very easy because, one, if you know the history of the brand, Playboy has always supported women's rights, gay and lesbian rights, African American rights, and to stand by a brand, I just told you about 10 different brands I worked for, but tell you about a brand that 50 years ago was fighting for things that brands today are fighting for and making it like they're the first ones talking about it, then you kind of have to go back and remind people of the history. And that's a really important lesson because anytime you teach somebody about a brand, you have there could be 100 different brand stories, but it's your job as a marketer to pull out those brand stories, and it's sort of like a Jenga game, and pull them and bring them to the top and remind people what they are. And that's my job, is to take all that mush of stories that sort of kind of falls around any brand and prioritize the stories that mean something and are relevant. So what I also tried to do with my team, and I have an incredible team, that's the other thing too. I don't do anything without an incredible team behind me, and I've been lucky enough, I've brought Becca with me. She is not a former Playmate or Bunny, which she has been asked as we walked around, but Becca is a marketing student. She actually wrote her thesis on, her senior thesis on Playboy. Believe it or not. So that definitely won me in the interview. And but going back to the team, there's always these great ideas. So how do we bring the brand back to life? There were so many iconic gaming nights, movie nights, glamorous, buzzworthy nights. How do we bring that back into the club? So one of the very first things we did was there used to be backgammon night. Backgammon, not the most relevant game among millennials these days, which I just discovered because the nights were kind of slow in the beginning. But we're sort of evolving it, and we're bringing in other types of games that appeal to many different generations. So, everything from a Jenga to a cards, with it. Cards Against Humanity, Cards with Humanity, Against Humanity. But, really trying to figure out, what is it? Because games, and there's something very historical about that, and the mansion did and was known for gaming, but gaming also helps us communicate and gather, and it's a great way to socialize, but it also has that brand history to it. So what else? Then I kept going back into the history of the brand. What else did the mansion be known for, and what is relevant today? So we also have something called Laughing Out Loud, which is a comedy series. Comedy was huge. Hef actually supported a lot of comedians back in the day. There's actually a show going on now that stars Lenny Bruce, who was a great comedian. And comedy, I think, again, is about, which is the mansion and the Playboy brand, brings people together, and laughter. So again, we do it in our Playboy way. We always have a bunny involved. did not speak about our bunnies yet, but our bunnies are a really key part of our brand. We involve them in everything. They're not just cocktail servers, but they are women that are the embodiment of the Playboy brand. They're women that represent all of the core values that Playboy stands for. So forward thinking, sophistication, empowerment, confidence. So whatever we do, it's, the bunnies are the ones who are teaching our guests the backgammon. We actually have a bunny who's a comedian, so she'll be part of our next comedy hour. And then we had a Broadway, a Playboy Live, which was a Broadway type of program that we involved some of our bunnies who are performers. A lot of them are singers and dancers. So events, as I said, that's what made the mansion. And again, they're a huge part of what we do at the Playboy Club. We had to go in with a really big bang, so we had a huge launch event in September. We did a Fashion Week party with Jeremy Scott, who's sort of the bad boy of the fashion world. He is the designer for Moschino, and just by having that event, we had Cardi B, Paris Jackson, Caitlyn Jenner, and a bunch of Tiffany Haddish and a bunch of other celebrities. So it was a really big way to come out during Fashion Week. That's also important with a brand, I think, is always figuring out when is the right time culturally to insert your brand. Because again, making your brand relevant during a really big cultural moment can also help to elevate attention around it. And we continue to do that. So we made a great partnership with Jeremy Scott, and I loved working with them. And I just kept chasing them and chasing. When you get so convinced that another brand is perfect for you and they don't want to partner with you, but I think it's perfect. So I kept chasing them, and finally we did the Met Gala together. And everybody knows the Met Gala is the Oscars of I would say the Oscars of New York or of the fashion world. And so we were able to then reconnect with Jeremy and do a Met Gala event, and that's where I had Gwen Stefani and Katy Perry. And what I can tell you too is, I know this also raises this other issue, is celebrity endorsement relevant to brands? And that's a great other debate and conversation that I'm sure everybody has when it comes to building their brands. I think that, obviously celebrity what it means has definitely evolved. There's definitely, people like influencer celebrities, but I still think that there is nothing like a Hollywood or a singer celebrity associated with a brand. People are still very, I think, in awe and impressed, particularly if you deal with the right celebrities. And I can tell you at the Met Gala, I was so happy to have someone like a Katy Perry and a Gwen Stefani. I didn't need to, and again, nothing against the Kardashians, but for me, that was the right fit for the brand. Always keeping with sophistication and elegance and people who are really pushing the boundaries in any industry, whether it's fashion, entertainment, tech, automotive. It trickles down to the type of customer that we want. We want people who are forward thinkers, and that's how we choose brands. We associate ourselves with brands that inspire us and are, I would say, outward manifestations of who we are, and that's the crowd and the celebrity that we try to associate with. We also have a membership component. The membership component's tricky because when we first launched with the brand, everybody said to me, well, I thought you were a membership club, so I didn't want to come. And I said, okay, it has a membership component. So that was a real lesson for me, because it was really about how do you split a message? Because as a brand, sometimes you have two different messages you want to get out. And it's really hard because sometimes one message overtakes the other message. And as marketers, we're all trying to kind of, again, prioritize, but also make sure that the messages are, all standing on their own. So that's something that I do still struggle with is getting that, I would say getting that right. What the membership offers is just a added layer of experience of benefits and perks that our typical guest doesn't get. So our typical guests can come in, you can make a reservation on OpenTable, so hear that right, if you live in New York, reservation on OpenTable, or call Becca. But when it comes to our membership, it's an added element, I said, of access and benefits. So if I have an event at the Met Gala, I'm going to call my biggest spender, and I'm going to say to them, I will get you, I would love to have you seated at a table. It's, 5 of my highest, best VIP customers. And that really goes a long way in terms of CRM. And if you are into rewarding your, best customers or guests, whoever they are, again, maybe you can't get them a table at the Met Gala after party, but what can you give them to make them feel like they're getting access to something that other people don't have access to? So those type of things really help go a long way. If anybody also wants to be a member, you can sign up. She has a credit card. No, I'm just kidding. So going back to our celebrities, again, just a few great shots. The other thing is Cooper Hefner, who's up in the left, came by and was, always supporting the club. He was there for backgammon night, and as I said, we had Tiffany Haddish and Gwen Stefani and Cardi B. Even the housewives, have stopped by. Carmelo Anthony, Lala Anthony, Sterling Shepard. We get a lot of also the sporting crowd. So something that is really near and dear to me as a marketer is press. After I left Christie's, I was doing marketing. I went to go work for an agency that was owned by Omnicom, still is. It's called Harrison Schriftman. And I worked there for 7 years with publicists. I'm not a publicist by training. I'm a marketer, and I'm always very, I'm always respectful, but I'm always, because I don't want it to come off like I'm not in PR, because I think PR and marketing go hand in hand, but I'm very clear to say I'm a brand strategist, and I come up with messaging, and then I hand it over to my PR team, and I make sure that my PR team basically pulls it through everything that they do. And I've always said this, advertising, and we definitely do digital ads and social ads, but when you are trying to reinvigorate a brand and you're trying to tell a story, there's no advertisement that will ever tell a story. Maybe a video can do that type of content, and that's a whole nother meeting and a whole nother, talk about the type of content we do. But I really believe in just good old PR still. I still believe we're still reading. We could debate whether people are picking up print or not. But again, I'm a little old school. When we launched, I wanted that New York Times article. I wanted my New York Times article. Again, it'll be very interesting after this to hear, if you guys still think that that's relevant to your brands. But that to me was just the holy grail. Actually, it says the holy cottontail. It was the holy cottontail. The holy cottontail that I got the New York Times. So that was just a really great piece. And again, in the byline, it says a defiant time capsule resurfaces smack in the middle of Me Too. And again, just a really great way to, for us, head-on take on a conversation that was very difficult, but that needed to be had. It was something that I definitely was not swerving away from. I think that as a brand, again, if something's culturally going on that your brand might be or perceived as in conflict with, you have to address it head on. If you don't, people are going to assume, they're going to make up stories in their head. I'm all about just telling your message and being honest, and that's the best way to always build any brand. How am I doing on time? I have no idea about time. Good? Okay. Okay, this next piece, I'm jumping over to the New York Post. Actually, the piece that ran on the Post it was the same article, but a different header. I loved that title. You can't make this stuff up. Why women love New York's new Playboy Club. I did not pitch that title. I did not pay them to make that title up. They wrote that title themselves. This is, again, in the middle of the Me Too moment in September when everything's combusting with, Matt Lauer and oh my God, the poor film guy, I blanked him out. Harvey Weinstein, and here I am just telling the truth, being honest, telling everybody the real history of the brand, going back to what I was saying, reprioritizing the stories and segmenting my stories and just making sure that we had a really tight strategy. So this was a real win and really exciting, and we had that both in print and in online. So, Architectural Digest, I could just die. I was like, oh my God. I mean, it was, maybe surface a wallpaper, but again, maybe again, I've been marketing and doing this for 20 years. So yes, is it cool for me to be, and I was on Cheddar TV, is it cool for me to do those type of things? Great. But for me, it's sort of like I said, the holy cottontail to be an architectural digest. And again, the other point, going back to membership, is people are like, do you have women members? Well, yeah, we have women members, and actually we have 50% women members. And no, I'm not making it up. And yes, you can come to the club on any given night, and people are like, they're women members. So it's for me, what's also exciting about the brand is being able to shatter so many different stereotypes and brand perceptions. And again, you don't have that opportunity always with certain brands that you're working on, but it's just funny. Like even standing up here and being a woman, some people are like, oh, you represent the Playboy brand? And I said, yes. And they're like, interesting. And then I tell them where I'm from, and then the conversation just gets more interesting. But so again, yes, we have a lot of female members. And then the list just goes on: Hot Living, Town and Country, Business Insider, Forbes. Forbes really embraced us as well. The other thing, a piece of advice I'd give to anybody who's dealing with the media as part of your marketing discipline is partner with the media who also really believe in you. You know, you can really tell what editors champion your brand. And of course, you don't want to say no to editors who don't, because, you know, freedom of speech, and I want anybody to say what they need to say. But we genuinely had editors, it was like almost dating. It was just like energy. They just gravitated towards us, and we had conversations, and we were really trusting. That doesn't happen all the time. I definitely have had some bad articles that are not in this deck. But, you know, most of it was just one or two articles that we sort of, you know, everybody wanted to be, there were a few people who wanted to be the new Gloria Steinem. And that's okay. They went in undercover, and, you know, again, there wasn't much that they had discovered because, again, we're just being us. The New Yorker was a great piece, and this is a piece that I wanted to highlight. So one of the things that we do with our bunnies and how we make our brand relevant today is our women. Our women, again, are not just servers and cocktail waitresses. These are women that are interviewed and asked questions like, what does the Playboy brand stand for? What do you like to do when you're not, you know, when you're not working? This bunny, Nicole Patrick, she happens to have started a dog rescue. And so one of the things, again, that we wanted to do is to really support Nicole and show also that going back to history, Playboy authentically has a strong relationship with charities and giving back. And the fact that the bunny had a charity, and it was about animal rescue, which is a huge topic, and there's so many people out there who really embrace animal rescue. And it was something that also, you know, built the gap between men and women. It wasn't just like, you know, one cause that was, you know, female related that anybody would expect. So this was a great piece that, you know, it was like one sentence on me and a whole article on Nicole, and I was so excited and happy for her that this could raise awareness for her charity. Like I said, you got to touch the millennials. So the millennials, we don't, you know, I as a marketer, I know everybody in this room is also probably going back and forth. How do we touch millennials? Do we market and talk to them differently? You know, do we create a different, whole nother brand that speaks to them? I believe in going into millennial outlets to talk to them, but I don't want to talk to them like they're like a space alien. They're just like me and you, because I'm looking around the room, I'm probably with the only millennial here, and they're just like us, you know, I think that, yes, they have certain habits and, you know, consumption and behaviors, but Cheddar was really important, and I believed in it, and I was able to go on the New York Stock Exchange and talk about reinvigorating the Playboy brand, which was very exciting. And again, they were very warm and receptive to hear about, you know, what we're doing. And then they ran a piece online. One of the things that I did talk about there, which is going to come up in a few minutes, and I'm almost done, is social media. So again, I'm not doing social media just to talk to millennials. I do believe that social media, particularly in the last 10 years, is definitely, if you're not doing it, you're completely irrelevant. But we also launched Weibo and WeChat, so we're that committed to social channels. The Playboy brand is obviously an iconic global brand, and just, you know, through research we were very aware that there's a lot of Chinese consumers obviously who do a lot of traveling, and that was something that I wanted to tap into and play. And social media has a obviously more budget-wise is a little bit friendlier to do that versus me popping up somewhere in Asia. So it was something fun to try out. And I have a great agency called Acorn International, if anybody is interested in Weibo or WeChat, that I'm happy to make an introduction to. And then, typical pieces in the Maxims. Again, myself and some of my colleagues got some press on what we were doing as women building the brand. Food press is definitely something, if you're going to say, well, what's next for Playboy? It's really pushing food. It's in the New York, you got to go hard. If you want to be a restaurant, if you're a foodie, and you guys all know what I mean, you have to come out with a really great chef, and you have to come out with a great menu. We've had great feedback on our food, but it could be better, and so expect to see in the next 6 months lots of great and exciting changes with our menu, and I hope you all come to dinner and eat with us. But of course, we were in Time Out, Guest of a Guest, and then here is just some of my celebrity press. I always need to have my best friend Dylan Lauren around, and Wendy Starlin stopping by to support me. She actually discovered Lady Gaga. She had just finished her tour of speaking at the Grammys. And then we've had anybody, like I said, from Cooper Hefner supporting the brand and showing up to, this actually talk about right before the Grammys, Casey Musgraves stopped by with Busy Phillips, and the two of them were, tweeting and Instagramming, and it was great because there's nothing better that I want to show, again, to break perceptions than two women hanging out at the Playboy Club. So, again, a little bit more sightings. We had the cast of Hamilton stop by for one of our Playboy Live. Again, if you're going to do celebrity, go to Phantom of the Opera, go to Hamilton if you want to be relevant. So we had G-Eazy there for anybody who's familiar with G-Eazy. And just, the list goes on and on. And then finally at the end, like I said, our social media channel is growing. We just started in September, so have about 30, actually I think right now we're a little bit higher than that, but the pictures of the bunnies at Fleet Week, we try to take the bunnies on the road and take lots of pictures outside, which we've gotten probably the highest engagement and likes on. We're on Facebook, and as I said, we're on Weibo and WeChat, which has been incredibly exciting to explore. And that's it. I mean, there's more, but that's it for you guys. So thank you for listening. I don't know if anybody has any questions, but yeah. So, yes.
So a lot of it I think is press related, but what are you doing specifically to market to women? Like, what's the strategy behind getting women to the club?
Well, I mean, again, another interesting question, because it's not, I don't want to make it like it's always about, it's about to everyone. The brand itself used to actually say entertainment for men, and now it says as their tagline, entertainment for all. And we embrace that same thing. So there are a few things I do for women, but it's more about what do I do to include everyone, not just a 50, 60-year-old guy who grew up reading Playboy. So there's LGBT programming, there's female-oriented things that we do. I would say, but I wouldn't say that it's full-on female, because again, I want everybody to come and it be more organic. I have had some, female speakers come in. Like, for example, this is a good example. Cryptocurrency is a hot topic. So we had a cryptocurrency panel. But I wanted to show, I didn't want to be in your face all about women. So I had one of the leading women of cryptocurrency on the panel, but other people as well, because I wanted to always bring diverse crowds and not just seem like it's, it's just all about women, because for me it's all about inclusiveness, and there's so many more other I would say audiences. If you want to do all women things, go to the Wing and all that, but I integrate it, but I don't isolate it as a subject, if that makes sense. So
how are you marketing outside of social media? You mentioned social and press a
Yep.
lot. Do you have a newsletter, or what other avenues are you marketing
Yeah, I'm actually, it's a great point. I did not put in email marketing, and email marketing is a big part of it. We're always growing our database, and I'm always testing and playing with email marketing. Open rates and read-through rates and bounce rates, and I have this pretty much my advice with email marketing is again try to break through segmented messaging to segmented groups. Always works the best, but I do have to say that at times I have noticed that email marketing is not getting through, particularly to my members. My members are highly affluent people who are probably not going through their emails and taking the time to read my newsletters. So what I've also tried to experiment with is a lot of SMS. And at first I was like, oh my God, someone's SMSing me. This is so invasive. But I also feel culturally that we're so much more used to SMS that it actually now is, I think, more acceptable for brands to. Now, if you over SMS me, I'm going to have a problem with you. So we don't do that. But we certainly do it enough so that I feel like our members finally are getting the message, and our non-members, because we segment our messaging. There's member blast, and then there's non-member messaging. And I think I've gotten some good traction with that as well. I said we played with digital advertising, which we just started to really up that. Google ads, Facebook ads, Instagram ads. Like I said, I don't do traditional advertising. I do get a free ad in all Playboys 23 editions, which is bonus. So thank you, Playboy. Yeah, so, and we're always thinking, like, what are the new ways? And, even the other day, I just brought the bunnies out to Hudson Yards, and, because we want to be where the vessel is. So, the bunnies were going around, and everybody just was coming up and talking to us. And it felt a little bit old school with all the technology, but you know what? It worked. People like talking to people, believe it or not. So, as marketers, we just have to remember that. So I know there was one other.
So firstly, two things, two pats on the back.
Oh, thank you.
I want to congratulate you on really the authenticity in terms of the brand story and brand experience that you're creating.
Thank you.
Because I think it would have been very easy to go off course and be maybe politically correct or over-index on that side, and to be able to maintain the true core tenets of the brand in a relevant way for today, that's really hard. So
Thank you.
Congratulations on
Thank
that.
you.
And also just another layer relative to support on PR. Firm believer in it, not just because I'm in fashion, but because I think that that's the most credible way for your brand to get recognized. And in today's day and age, you really can finally track PR results. Because
Right.
PR lives in a digital world, it's able to track back to you, back to databases, back to likes on social media, back to sales if you have an e-commerce platform. So it's a really, really important aspect to our business now that we're finally able to show our CEO that he's actually getting results from. Because before it was just, okay, you're getting eyeballs, and that has a valuation from an advertising standpoint. It was a tough sell.
Yeah, no, ad circ is, again, we did have some UVMs and ad circs, and we still give those numbers, because again, I think marketing and PR is in this weird place where, we used to not be held accountable to numbers, and now everything has to be numbers, so PR is trying to catch up. But when it comes to digital, one of the things I work with my digital team on is just making sure that all the backlinks to any of our articles, and always expressing that it's important for SEO to have all those articles as well. And in general, it's great content. So, it's repurposing your content versus building new content. So thank you, that meant a lot. I appreciate that.
Pleasure.
So, yes.
So did you, in terms of nailing down your few messages that you wanted to go out to market with and prioritizing those, did you guys do research, or what was your process?
Research. I love research, first of all. I've worked for brands where we've invested a lot of money in research. When I worked at LVMH, and they really believed in research, I forgot to mention I worked at LVMH for a makeup brand called Makeup Forever. I did a lot of research, several thousands of dollars of research, so it's quite expensive. I've thought about doing it for the Playboy brand, and it still is an option on the table. The really cool thing is that as I got older, I started to realize, I can do what the research companies do. And my friends make fun of me because I go out at night and I'll be sitting at a bar and all of a sudden there'll be like, 3 women and 4 men, and all of a sudden I'll be asking them about the Playboy brand, and specifically again the club brand because I oversee the club, not Playboy corporate. And I've been able to compile a lot of information that way. Again, I know it's not like talking to thousands of people, but I think I actually probably have spoken to 1,000 people about the Playboy brand. So again, I know that's qualitative, but I always say there's like always that great quote about marketing where, and again, I'm humbly not even ever comparing myself to him in any way, but there's something that's so inspiring about Steve Jobs because he always said that had he listened to the research, he would have built a better Walkman and not the iPod. And I was always really inspired by that because I did grow up in Omnicom, and I had some of the best research companies, and I've worked with Interbrand, and everybody's research. But one of the things that I've always tried to do is go with my gut and just talk to people, whether I'm working for a hotel brand, I'm talking to the doorman, I'm talking to the housekeeper, I'm just talking to everybody, and I'm building, my purview, and I'm building my perspectives, but I'm talking to people, because that's what building brands are about, is you gotta talk to people. It's that simple. So, there was one more, I don't know if we have time or we're going over, but.
No, I was just going to ask, I saw that you were doing marketing through Weibo and WeChat, and I'm wondering, is the messaging and the positioning of the brand the same, or do you have to vary it?
You've got to vary it. Yeah, you definitely have to vary it. That was definitely one of my learnings. They would, first of all, they would translate what I would write, and I'd say, no, you can't. There was something we did for Valentine's Day, and they used the word girls, and I said, no, the point of the brand is that I'm trying to build female empowerment. I'm not talking, I cannot use the word girls. Take that out. They're like, no, it's like this cute, affectionate way of referring to your girlfriend on Valentine's Day. So again, it definitely opened up a lot of cultural conversations. But that's the neat thing of, I think, taking a brand and parlaying it to different countries. And hopefully, if you are working for a global brand, it's working with people who really understand and respect cultural differences. That's something I really learned at LVMH, working with the French, is trying to explain to people what happens in France or what happens in Asia is not how you build a brand in the US. And that's definitely a big learning curve with Asia as well, is that it is a very different market, and you cannot go into Asia and think, okay, I did it this way in the US and I'm going to do it this way in Asia. You will not succeed. You will not fail. And that's why I did a shout out to the company Acorn, because they really built their business in social media in that market. And I certainly was not going to go with a US agency who says they do Weibo and WeChat, because then they'd be taking my money. And nobody just takes my money. It's not happening. Not when I'm controlling a marketing budget. So,
I think we're done.
that's it. Great. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody.